Hi, I'm Saida Garrett, co-writer of Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mr. Mark Tara.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the persons appearing on the program.
Today on Rainbow Country, award-winning music educator, musician, producer, author, entrepreneur, Christian, and someone who's also part of the LGBT community. Recording artist Danah-Lee will be my guest. Plus, filmmaker Matt Carter joins me to talk about his debut feature film, In From the Side, a movie that tells the story of a gay British rugby team. All that and more on episode 305, so stay tuned for Gay Talk Radio right here on Rainbow Country.
Hi, this is Carol Pope.
Hi, I'm Garrett Conley, author of Boy Erased, a memoir.
Hi, I'm Lorraine Segato.
Hi, I'm Gord Depp of the Spoons. You're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Well, hello and welcome to a brand new journey through Rainbow Country. As I like to call it, a little gay radio show working to give voice to the LGBT community and beyond. And as always, I am your tour guide through Rainbow Country. I'm producer and host Mark Tara. By the way, Rainbow Country originates from CIUT-FM in Toronto and now proudly in syndication on 12 outlets across Canada, from coast to coast to coast. The Yukon, British Columbia, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, the east coast of Canada in Newfoundland, Ontario, even down to Buffalo, New York, and online. Well, thanks to you tuning in, streaming, downloading, but ultimately listening. Together, we continue to build Rainbow Country into a nationally syndicated gay radio show, a #1 LGBT podcast on Podomatic.com's Gay and Lesbian chart. And by the way, last week we were #2, as well as being recognized as Canada's #2 LGBT podcast on feedspot.com. So today, come for the beefy guys, stay for the nuanced relationships unfolding amongst the players of a gay rugby club in South London. British filmmaker Matt Carter joins me to talk about his debut feature film, In From the Side. Plus in hour 2, music from LGBT artists, independent artists, voices that we've come to know and love in classic disco, classic 80s, classic house, and on this episode I'm featuring some Canadian 80s, as well as some lesbian rock, and so much more. But at first, recording artist Danah-Lee joins me in conversation to chat about her latest album, Made in the Image, her music school, as well as her Christian identity as someone who's part of the LGBT community. So, this little gay journey through Rainbow Country begins right after this.
Phone rings. I got a message from the mayor. He's going to call me back the next day. I get the call, and he said, if you'd accept, we'd like to honor you with the key to the city. There was an event later that year in May. Just a key, right? Like, key to what? A decent job, a good singing career. It's really a metaphor, but it's history. So a reporter wants to talk to me and says, so it's a key, right? Like, what's the big deal? I said, well, not everybody gets the key. So I looked it up, and I guess it is kind of a big deal.
The date, May 17th, 2018, when trans activist Susan Gapka made history by becoming the first trans woman to be presented with the key to the city of Toronto. By the way, past recipients include Rush and the Raptors.
Hi, everybody. This is Gino Vanelli. You're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Danah-Lee, hi, how are you?
I'm well, how are you?
I am good. I am better now that I'm speaking to you, Miss Danah-Lee, to have your voice, your story be heard by the LGBT community and beyond. So thank you for that. I want to start here with you. You are an award-winning music educator, a musician, a producer, an author, an entrepreneur. You're part of the LGBT community. You're also a Christian. Your current single is Home to Myself. First of all, let's start with your music. How would you describe the style of music, the sound of your music?
Oh, okay. Well, that's an interesting question. I like that question. I don't really have, I would say, a set style. It is more under the umbrella, I would say, of pop and adult contemporary. I like to play around with different styles. I love the strings. So on this album, there are a lot of strings happening. But I also like to play around with modern samples as well, found in some of the programs that I use while recording. So I would just say I'm under the umbrella of a contemporary pop.
So Made in the Image, this is your latest album.
Yes.
The tracks on this record, do they tell a cohesive story? Are you trying to tell maybe one story throughout all the songs on it? Or is it just a collection of songs?
No, I think that's pretty accurate, actually. It is telling a story. I think it is my journey of coming into my own as a Christian, but also as a member of the queer community. And this is the first time I've really been open about my identity in my whole life, in my music. I mean, my previous albums are, I have love songs, but you don't really tell the story of me. And so this is the story of my faith and my identity as a queer. And I think my story is not unlike many other people who have felt abandoned by their faith. And I just wanted to come back to the fact that Christianity is about love, and there is space for everyone under that umbrella. So I would say that it is a concept, and I am telling a story about my life, but it's not unlike the lives of other people.
Mm-hmm. And how long have you been working on this record?
This album, I would say it has been 14 months in the making from start to finish. It was a little slower than intended. In the summertime, I became very ill. I from my vaccine, actually, and I was off for about 3 or 4 months. and I had to stay with my parents until I was well again. But I even, tried to work on the album throughout that. And I would say it took just over a year.
So you've had, I believe, 3 solo albums, 2 collaborative albums. You've toured North America. How did you fall in love with music originally? How did you get introduced to music in the first place?
Music, I remember the very first time I was introduced to playing music. It was around a campfire, and someone brought out an accordion and put it on my lap and let me just noodle around on it. And from that moment, my parents saw the love in my eyes, and they put me in piano lessons and got a piano in our house. And then it just followed. I started playing music in church, and that's where I really expanded my horizons. And I went on to Bible college and studied music there. And now I teach music for a living, full time. And I just have a love of the arts. And I think that anybody can play an instrument or even use their voice. And I'm very passionate about that.
So among other things, you are a producer.
Yes.
Do you produce yourself? Do you produce other artists? Do you do both?
Yes. So this is the first project where I've really it's the second where I've really let myself have the reins on my own music. But I've been working with students and doing full recording projects with them and producing them probably for the last 4 years. We've released songs on Spotify and the whole gamut. And I've been producing students.
You mentioned this earlier about this record being recorded over the last, 12 plus months. COVID-19. How has COVID-19, a global pandemic, how was that experience for you recording this new album?
Like many artists, you have to get a little creative. But it actually opened up many doors to work with other musicians.
Did you create your own home studio because of this?
Yes, absolutely. I renovated my entire downstairs, and
now there's no going back.
That's right. And I think in the long run, right, it actually has saved me, I guess, in a financial way, that I don't have to go out and pay for studio time. And I'm utilizing my own space. I have my own gear now, and I know who to call on. And that was the really great thing, is I met so many people from around the world that really had a helping hand in creating the music with me. And I just feel this has actually expanded my musical world instead of limiting it. I have actually created 2 music projects of my own during the pandemic. So it just goes to show that, we're as limiting as we have in our own minds, right? We can limit ourselves, or we can see it in a whole other lens.
So you're recording in your own home now, in your own home studio. Are you doing that by yourself, or do you call in an engineer?
No, I am the engineer.
How are you finding that, being the creative and the technical, essentially both at the same time?
The technical piece, is a struggle. If I run into stuff with the software, I know who to call on. But it's actually been really great because it's allowed me to just be me. I've had a lot of, and I'm sure you know of this too, in recording, there's a lot of male energy in the recording world for women like me who are trying to voice themselves on how they want things to sound. And sometimes that was a struggle for me. I'm trying to articulate what I want, and I'm not being heard, and it's not coming out in the recording. And this time I had my own reins, and I could say, no, I don't like the way that sounds, or whatever, right? So I really like that.
So More Than a Song Studios, this is your music school. You have a music school. Talk to me about your music school. How did this come about? Because I find this fascinating and amazing.
Well, thank you. It's always been my dreamed to teach music. That was always what it has been for me since when I went to church, there was this woman who played the music at the church, and I learned a lot from her. And she was so good with kids. And I just thought, I really want to be like that when I grow up. And I'm seeing my dreams kind of come to fruition. So I opened up my own music school in 2016. And it started with 3 students. And at our peak, even during the pandemic, we were close to 80. And it started off with just me. And now I have other instructors that work there as well. And we don't just teach music, but we also do a lot of songwriting and recording, like I was sharing. And we have a lot of our projects online, and it just gives students free reign over expression in a way that they don't really get in regular school.
And is this a full-time school?
Yes. So during the pandemic, we had to change our hours slightly. I did a lot of work during the school hours before the pandemic because I was allowed to actually access some of the local schools. But because of COVID, I wasn't allowed to enter the schools any longer. So it's all after school, and it's very full from about 3 to 9 every night. And it's rocking.
And in regards to your students, what sort of age range are we looking at?
Most of my students are ranging from elementary age to high school, but I do, during the daytime hours, see a lot of retirees that like to, play the piano as a bucket list type thing, or, singing just as an experiment.
And for yourself, do you play multiple instruments?
I play the piano. I sing, but I don't really play anything else.
What prompted you to actually start the school? It's one thing to have an idea, and it's one thing to be inspired by, but it's another thing to actually start building the bricks and walking the walk. So what inspired you to actually do it? Was there a flashpoint? Was there a moment?
Yes. So I actually I was working in high tech for about 10 years. And I worked overnights, and I taught during the afternoons for another woman in my area, part-time, teaching music. And then I had a vehicle rollover during the winter, and I was concussed, and I had a really bad concussion, and I was off for months and months. And I just thought, I cannot go back to that IT job. That's not me. It's not where my passion is. And I just decided to take the leap and just trust and do what was on the pinpricks of my heart. And I opened up More Than a Song Studios.
Mm. And I'm sure that faith also got you through that accident.
Absolutely. I just look back in my life and the journey, and it really has been about being God, being faithful. Even when I didn't know what was happening, I just see God's hand in everything. And, even when I kind of went astray for a while, in hindsight, God hasn't left me. It's always been God. He's always carried me through all of it.
Every strand of hair, every freckle on my crooked little nose, the force of life streaming in these lungs. It's an intricate design.
And on that note, we will return after this Rainbow Country update.
Hi, this is Mo Berg from The Pursuit of Happiness, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Our Health, a Canada-wide 2S LGBT QQIA+ community survey, is looking for your involvement. The Our Health survey aims to explore the current state of health among two-spirit, lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, queer, questioning, intersex, asexual, and other sexually and gender diverse people in Canada. The study team especially wants to hear from community members who are living with chronic health conditions like diabetes, cancer, and fibromyalgia. This is to ensure that people living with conditions that are often underrepresented or less understood are included in this work. Participants will also have the opportunity to do a test at home to screen for COVID-19 antibodies, HIV, hepatitis C, and syphilis. All data collected will be used to advocate for programs, services, and policies that better support the health and well-being of 2S LGBT QQIA+ people across Canada. All participants will receive a small honorarium for completing the survey. For more information, visit cbrc.net/our_health. That's cbrc.net/our_HEALTH.
Summer is in the air. And here's what's on tap for summer 2022. Mansions of the Moon. Award-winning and best-selling author Shyam Selvadurai will be my guest to talk about his powerful new novel, Mansions of the Moon. Plus, married couple and Broadway veterans Stephen Hanna and Brett Shuford will join me in conversation to talk about their journey towards parenthood via surrogacy. We'll also find out about their online LGBT community for creatives, parents, performers, Broadway husbands. And Deep Throat. The 1972 porn classic comes to Rainbow Country. The little film that helped to create the porn industry and become intimately entwined in American politics. Watergate. The film was written, edited, and directed by Gerard Damiano Sr., who passed away in 2008. I'll be joined by his adult children, Gerard Damiano Jr., Christar Damiano, and artist and businessperson Robin Leonardi, to talk about the 50th anniversary of this classic, historic film, Deep Throat. All that and more coming up on Summer 2022, right here on Season 7 of Rainbow Country.
Hi, this is Carol Pope.
Hi, I'm Kevin Staples.
And you're listening to Rainbow Country
with Mark Tara.
So let's get to know Danah-Lee a little deeper, so to speak.
Okay.
You are part of the LGBT community. The word queer for yourself, how does queer represent yourself? Does it refer to your gender identity, to your sexuality, to your political views? For yourself, what does queer mean for you?
I have to be honest with you. I wasn't really down with the terminology until I have a friend who's very, very, very sensitive to all of the terms. And I always just called myself gay for many years.
Love it.
And yeah. And my girlfriend as well, she calls herself gay. Like we say we're gay. And even saying the word lesbian, I'm like, ooh, I mean, that's what I am, but I don't know. I just don't like the word. I don't know. But as
Lesbionics, she doesn't like the word.
But as I was creating the album, my friend Elena, she educates me quite often. And I'm glad that I have Elena in my life, because if it wasn't for Elena, I don't think I would be as sensitive to the terms. And I need to be, obviously, and it's part of my community, right? And
I struggle with this when I come across artists or individuals that call themselves queer, because they may not necessarily be homosexual, right? They may not be attracted to the same sex or bisexual or whatever. It may.
Right.
And so when someone says that they are queer, for me, I have to try to figure out a way to get that information from them, if possible, to how does queer refer to yourself? How does it refer to them, right? And so in interviewing yourself and coming across the information that I have on you, it doesn't necessarily say that you are gay. It says that you're part of the LGBT community or you are queer. And so I wanted to find that information out from you. And you're like so honest and so upfront, and I love it.
Well, I mean, I think because so many years
it's who you are. You're owning who you are.
That's right.
And I think a lot of people in 2022, there are some people that almost seems they want ambiguity. They want to in my opinion, they don't want to necessarily own who they are.
I agree. And I think I use the word queer now in hindsight. I think the reason why that word came up, and it was just out of Elena educating me, right? I'm creating this project and I'm trying to connect with people who are not exactly like me, but still are in that umbrella term, and struggled within the church, being a part of that community. So they see, even there, right there, right? So I'm trying to, so Elena educated me to see it as, that's the umbrella term for everybody.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go another level deeper. Christianity, homosexuality. Traditionally, they don't necessarily see eye to eye.
Right.
You are a Christian. You're also part of the LGBT community. How do you balance the two? How have you come to an understanding between the two for yourself? Talk to me about that.
It took a long time, a really long time. I feel when I look back, I mean, maybe I wasn't ready yet. I mean, I wish I was ready to, just be myself. Many, many, many years battling within myself, being angry, being hurt, and just knowing who I am, but not sharing. And I think if Jesus was sitting right here today, the Jesus that I know from Christianity, Jesus would be hanging out with me and he'd be okay with me. And I know many Christians don't see it that way, but I think we really need to get back to the basics of what Christianity really is about. Jesus didn't hang out with the coolest people on the planet, even though there are some really cool gay people. Jesus hung out with the people who need love. And
didn't he hang out with the prostitutes?
He did, and he hung out with the people the people's people, right? And he didn't, and so that's how I have kind of come to terms with it, is if my Savior was here today and he was on this earth in physical form, he wouldn't turn me away. So I think that's a really good way of looking at it and putting it in real everyday terms.
Are you born again? Are you a born again Christian?
I mean, I was baptized when I was 12 at church. I grew up in the Baptist church. And so, I committed at that young age, I committed myself to Christ. And I guess that term born again was used at that time. And that's a biblical term. I mean, I don't know if I see it exactly as that today. It's different as you mature in your faith and in your walk. Yeah.
And for yourself, in regards to your sexuality, growing up, when did you start becoming aware of that aspect of yourself? Was it early on? Was it later in life?
I think it was during my teen years. I had an inclination because everybody else was dating. Like all my girlfriends were dating boys, and I just really had no interest. I just wanted to play music at church, to be honest with you. And like raging teenage hormones, of course, that's normal. I had those, but it really wasn't directed. When I looked around, and I didn't want to be different than my friends, but I knew I wasn't the same. It was completely different. And so I think I knew that in high school, but then as I went on to Bible college, I definitely knew. I definitely knew for sure.
There's a saying, hate the sin, love the sinner. In other words, like, you can be gay, just don't do gay things.
Right.
How do you respond to that?
But I don't think that my identity is a sin, right? So I couldn't even get on to that message, because now, like, even there's a movie, it's called 1946, and it's about the word homosexual in the Bible and how it was mistranslated when it was translated into English. And it's really not that word. It was, it was totally doctored and messed up. And so I can't even get on board with that, like, hate the sin, love the sinner thing as it relates to my identity or anybody's identity. That's just so wrong. Powerful words coming from you.
You are an award-winning music educator. You're a musician. You're a producer. You're an author. You're an entrepreneur. You wear many hats. But Danah-Lee, for you feel most comfortable doing what?
I'm an introvert, really. So I love being alone. And I think sometimes people in my life who care about me, they worry about me because I like to be alone. And I like to be alone with my cat and just hang out. And it's like serenity now. It's been busy for the last few years. And I love the quiet and just being in the quiet with my cat.
And when it comes to you and your music, in the messaging of your music, is there a takeaway that you want your audiences to come away with after hearing one of your albums, one of your songs?
Yeah. I don't want anybody to feel like their faith has abandoned them. For many years, I felt very like I wasn't good enough for my faith. And I want people who are Christians or not Christians, I want people to know that it's okay. You belong no matter what you are. It's okay. You can be gay. You can be not gay. You can be trans. You can be not trans. You can be whatever you want. And it's okay. Just be yourself. It's okay.
Powerful words. Danah-Lee, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being on your show. Thank you for being on my show, on the show.
It's your show. I'm not going to take over your show. Don't worry.
Thanks again for your time.
Thank you.
Tongue is on guard. I swallowed my soul with the sweetest part of me. I can't wait much longer now. A rusted out heart pleads to the mind. Excuses are gone. I've had the conversations and I'm out. I know you think that I'm doing it all wrong in this life.
Check out her website, Danah-Lee.music.com. And for more on her music school, check out the website, morethanasongstudios.com.
Hi, I'm Gord Depp at the Spoons. You're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Up next, filmmaker Matt Carter fills us in on his debut feature film, In From the Side.
I've been working in gay film distribution for over a decade now. And I've seen everything come across my desk, and I mean literally everything. But one thing I have noticed is there is a huge amount of depressing gay lives on screen. This is not that kind of movie. But what I love about this is it's in the milieu of the newer sort of gay cinema that's forward-thinking, where we are more accepted, where we are more concerned about the more universal themes.
I think there's definitely a place for films that deal with the struggles of coming out and sexuality. But I think we also need content that explores the other side of the gay experience. And I feel that's often underrepresented. And I think that's what partially drove me to want to make this project.
Matt Carter, hi, how are you?
Good, thank you.
I have to say, Matt, thank you for being here, to have your voice, your story be heard by the LGBT community and beyond. So thank you for that, especially to talk about your debut feature-length film. You co-wrote this film, you directed this film, I believe you also produced this film.
Shot the film, edited it, wrote the score. A lot of things. I wore many hats on this production, yeah.
In From the Side, talk to me about this full-length movie that you've done, and tell me about the story that you're telling in From the Side.
So it's a film about a sort of gay and inclusive rugby club, but essentially it's a forbidden love story about two characters who sort of find each other in their lives, and but both have significant others, and it's about how they navigate that. Essentially having an affair in an environment where, and trying to hold secrets in an environment where it's almost impossible to keep secrets, which is like a rugby club. I've been involved in inclusive rugby now for about 8 years as a sort of a player, a coach, and a referee. So it's a world I know really well, and it's such a sort of nuanced and cultured sort of world that I thought would just lend itself really well to cinema. And I've wanted to write something about it for a long time. So it was an absolute dream to be able to do that.
When did you film this movie?
So we shot for about 2 months, early 2019, so sort of January, February time, winter. And it's been just a long journey of doing all the post-production since then, really, for the last sort of 3 years. And actually the pandemic for me was quite good because it gave me a lot of time to really sort of, to carry out all that post-production work, which was a lot to do, to be honest. I think I'd probably underestimated just quite how much work that actually was for one person. But we got there in the end, and it's really nice that now we get to show the world, and we start to get, see what audiences think of it, really.
So you didn't actually shoot during the pandemic?
No, we shot 2019, so we were well before then. So right. It's a pre-pandemic film in terms of the shooting schedule.
So come for the beefy guys and the sweaty scrums. Stay for the nuanced relationships and dramas unfolding amongst rugby players in a gay rugby club in South London. The story in From the Side. What inspired it? Were you part of a club, a gay rugby club?
I've been involved in many clubs, and I've sort of played for several. And it's as I said, it's a world I've known very well. I've played rugby for about sort of 8 years now. Okay. For a number of clubs, it's sort of I've had the perspective from several different sort of clubs, and to try to pull together this sort of fictional archetypal club that is representative of, if anyone has been in a rugby club, they'll recognise what it's like. It's drawing from all the experiences I've had from all people I've known in other clubs, stories I've heard from other people. It's an amalgamation of lots of things, really.
So you've been part of a gay rugby club before?
Yeah, many. Yes, quite a few.
Oh, okay. And I guess rugby life is big in London?
I mean, it's quite a big thing in the UK as a sport, but it's rugby is quite a unique sport in terms of how inclusive it is. It's I think it's leagues ahead of football and many other sort of mainstream sports. That I think, due to the nature of the sport, really, because it's there's an expression we have in the UK that football's a gentleman's sport played by hooligans, and rugby's a hooligan sport played by gentlemen. And it's kind of slightly true, really, because because it's such a physical sport. If you didn't have that culture of respect behind it, it kind of wouldn't work so well. Because of that, you've got these people who are comfortable sort of essentially sort of bashing heads and sort of being tackled to the ground. That those kind of people aren't so worried about a lot of the homophobia that you get in other sports. So it's amazing now. You get so many clubs that have actually quite a large active proportion of openly gay members that aren't in sort of what we say traditional inclusive clubs. They're just sort of regular rugby clubs, and that's a really special feature of rugby, I think. But I mean, rugby culture is quite sort of popular in the UK, and I think in sort of Europe. I also know it's different sort of abroad, but I wouldn't say in London particularly more than any other town in the UK that it's popular, but it's a well-known sport, and I think also it's a sport that for a lot of people carries this sort of air of mystery. And it's funny hearing a lot of the write-ups about the film. They sort of like, even the description you just said, it's a sweaty rugby men. There's this sort of idea of this allure surrounding it, that it's sort of a very like hyper-masculine thing. And I think the film is very much an exploration of sort of trying to break down those stereotypes, saying that actually it isn't this sort of toxic masculine space that people think of it as. It's actually a real positive expression of healthy masculinity, and that there's every body type in rugby, from the sort of skinny guys to sort of the overweight guys to everyone in between. With wherever you are on the kind of the whether you're sort of very masc or femme presenting, it accepts everyone. It's a sport really for everyone. And I think that hopefully the film will sort of show that and break down some of these stereotypes that people have about it.
There's a lot of beer drinking and empty cups being put on heads upside down.
Yeah, that's a little quirk that basically at the end, for anyone who hasn't seen the film or been in a rugby club, at the end of a match, you will have someone who's the man of the match that the captain will usually pick, someone who, it's not always the sort of best player, but someone who may have stepped up and had shown a real improvement in them, or someone who really turned the game around for everyone, or showed a real sense of leadership, and then someone who made a sort of fool of themselves doing something sort of silly, or but it's very lighthearted, and they're the dick of the day. And those two players will stand up and have to down a pint, and it's sort of a rite of passage, really. But it's part of that kind of it's like a rite of passage that and it bonds the group together, because you will go through these sort of shared experiences, and it creates these really strong bonds between this group of men, well, between any group of men in a rugby club, but specifically in the film, it's one of these sort of rituals that happens at the end of every match, and it's very common to have that in many clubs especially in the UK.
Have you ever been the dick of the day?
I have. I have been addicted. It's been a long time ago, but I can't remember what I got it for. But probably something very silly, like I don't know. But but yeah, it's many of the sort of reasons that the characters in the film get it for. Either sort of making an idiot mistake, or trying to take on something. Like trying to score a try rather than passing it to someone else who's in a better position. We call that sort of white line fever, when you get hungry for the glory, but you end up sort of missing out and not giving it to your teammates who would have been in a better position. It's lots of things you get it for, but it's I've certainly been dick of it at some point.
Talk to me about the casting process. How challenging was the casting for In From the Side?
I suppose, obviously, because it's quite a low budget feature film, in sort of in indie film, we didn't have lots of money to sort of throw at the problem like you have in other situations. So we put out sort of a casting call, for people, for an LGBT film, and anyone who had rugby experience would be a plus. And we were actually very lucky that a lot of the cast actually had played rugby in school, or had like some minimal experience, or more, actually some, depending on. But we had a broad sort of spectrum of ability from some of the cast. Some had never played before, and we basically based it on the who was the best for the role, really. And then we did a sort of boot camp sort of thing at the start of the shoot to kind of give everyone we got a coach in just to give everyone a bit of run through, to pass the ball through the hands, so that they, everyone looks a bit more comfortable playing rugby, rather than, because some people, with different levels of experience, and just to bring everyone up to sort of a level that would look convincing on screen. But, in terms of the casting, we got very lucky with the cast, a sensational ensemble cast that we've had for this film, and we're a joy to work with, really.
And the title, In From the Side, what's the story behind this particular title?
Okay, so In From the Side is actually a term in rugby, but what I liked about the title was that I was kind of looking for a rugby pun for the title, and there's lots of other sort of ones we sort of tried out, but In From the Side, it's a strange phrase in and of itself, and I think that sort of draws intrigue, because people that won't necessarily be familiar with what it means, but it also carries lots of different connotations. So it could be coming in from the side of a relationship, so you have a relationship, and someone like a third party kind of comes involved and shakes things up. There's a slight sort of sexual connotation to it as well, but but more importantly, it's an illegal move in rugby, which nicely parallels what essentially these characters are doing by sort of having this sort of adulterous, sort of forbidden affair, really. But it's nice because the film is very non-judgmental about these characters. It very much portrays it in a kind of, it lays out the events and lets you decide where you think things are morally, because I think a lot of these situations are morally complex, and I think in some ways I want to sort of reflect that with the title by having this kind of, it's one of the questions that people always ask, what's the title mean? And that's what we have at the end of the film. People want to know, what am I supposed to think about this situation? It's very much like, well, what do you think of the situation? I think that's it's a very long-winded answer to answer your question, but yes, essentially I liked that the title had a sense of mystery about it, and it wasn't always clear exactly what it meant.
Mm. So filmmaker, photographer, VFX artist, musician, writer, producer, director. What got you into filmmaking originally?
I think from a young age, I've always loved film. I've been quite a film obsessive, and I sort of got into photography first, and then sort of animation, and sort of filmmaking just seemed to be. Now, I've also played music and stuff from a young age, and it just seemed to be a discipline that brought together so many different skills that I was interested in, and put them together in one thing that that showcases all that. And I've always, it's been my dream to sort of make a feature film, ever since I was a young kid, really. And so it's nice to actually sort of finally get there and have a proper project to really show off to the world. But I just love film. I just think it's a really special art form.
You're also a musician. You did I believe the soundtrack.
Yeah, and that was a lot of work. Yeah.
In From the Side, featuring even some of your own original material.
Yeah, well, the whole thing is an original score. Yeah, about 120 minutes of original music produced for this film, including a couple of original songs that I made for various scenes in the film. So yeah, it was a lot of work. But I love writing music, and it was
because that's its own thing.
It is, and at some point I'll release an album of the soundtrack. But I think what's really nice, I think it's a rare opportunity to be able to score your own film, because I think the music really gives it colors the film in terms of its feel and its tone, and in a way that you give a lot of that creativity to the composer in a film, and to be able to do that myself really gave a sense of authorship over the film that I think I probably will never get again in future films, because I won't I'll have to hand that job over to someone else. So it was really lovely to be able to shoot the film in terms of do the cinematography and and direct it, and also be able to score it, so it's sort of the sound as well as the picture, and to really have something that I felt was exactly what I wanted to say, really.
Random question. Do you know Keegan Hurst?
I don't know him personally, no. I know of him, obviously, but I've never actually met him. I've not had the pleasure.
Mm-hmm. He's been on the show.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Just a few months ago, I had him on. You've worked on a number of films, including 2020's Falling with Viggo Mortensen. Great movie. I love that movie. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, the Chronicles of Narnia. Okay, so when audiences see In From the Side, what do you hope your audiences come away with after they've seen your debut feature-length film?
I think I'd love it if they were moved, if they were, they've seen a world that they hadn't seen before. Especially as well, I would love it if, people, LGBT people saw the film and thought, actually, maybe I'll give sport a go. Maybe because it's a common experience for a lot of people to have had a bad experience in school with sport and to basically never revisit it again. And I think that's a real shame. And I think, especially nowadays, sport is really for everyone. It can bring so much to people's lives. And I hope that through seeing this film and seeing the way that sport's portrayed and showing that, sport is for everyone, that people might take it up again and be able to have that benefit in their life.
And see some hot, sexy men.
That's always a positive as well.
Speaking as a gay, hello.
Exactly.
Matt Carter, I have to say thank you so much for your time. Thanks for being on the show. Well said, well done, and well made.
Thank you very much.
To keep up to date with this film, check out the website, infromthesidemovie.com.
I'm Billy Newton Davis, and we're sitting here on Rainbow Country with the fabulous Mark Tara.
Bill 7, to ban discrimination in employment, government services, and housing, based on a person's sexual orientation, was up for a vote at Queen's Park. Most NDP and Liberal MPPs supported the bill, but without some progressive Conservative legislators' backing, a divisive split could rack the province. 4 PCs decided to break party ranks to vote with their conscience and support Bill 7. Cabinet Minister and MPP Dennis Timbrell did it to show solidarity for his beloved brother, the well-known drag queen Rusty Ryan. And for me, a gay politician who was not yet out, I had to take a stand. We were known as the Gang of Four. I'm former Cabinet Minister and MPP Phil Gillies. The date, December 2nd, 1986, when LGBT rights came to Ontario.
Hi, my name is Joanne Vanicola, and I'm an actor and a writer, and I was first on Rainbow Country with Mark Tara on discussing the massacre at Pulse Club in Orlando. I realized how important it was for our community to have a radio station, specifically for our issues, to talk about people in the LGBTQ community and to provide an outlet for our stories, to discuss our politics, culture, and give voice to the issues that matter to us. And of course our artists and the things that we do globally, and talk about culture. And without people like Mark Tara providing a space for this with a radio show like this, then we wouldn't have that voice. So support, tune in. Thank you.
And just like that, this little gay journey through Rainbow Country has come to an end. For the full 2-hour episode, just head over to marktara.com, where everything is connected, and hit the archives banner. Don't forget to keep up to date with the show. Follow me on socials at Mark Tara. The podcast is available on all major platforms, including audible.com and iHeartRadio. And finally, I want to take this time to thank you for taking your time to be with me. Remember, we are living in days of making dreams come true despite all the madness that's going on in the world. So remember, believe in yourself, and the world will believe in you.
Hi, this is Police Constable Danielle Botno, also known as LGBT Cop, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.